A lot of stuff has happened in the NBA since I last been on. I want to go over Derrick Rose and his trade. Man, that was huge. It was something the Bulls needed to do. No doubt, I think they needed to trade Derrick Rose, but it was a salary cap move. I clearly understand why they had to put those pieces in there, the Lopez and Calderon, to make the numbers work. But I really think they could have gotten something out of it. I mean, unless they have a bigger play, you know, to probably bring in Durant, to go with Butler, maybe LeBron is in play. I'm not sure, man. I'm not really sure what Chicago is doing with that trade. I mean, they got nothing for him other than salary cap. And I mentioned this before online yesterday, that kind of reminds me of when the Heat started dumping salaries to get their big three in Miami. I'm not saying that Chicago has this master plan or anything going on, but I'm just trying to give them the benefit of the doubt for them not being that bad of ownership to where they're just giving away Derrick Rose like that. I don't understand that. I mean, damn, I would have, if that's all it took, you know, maybe Cleveland could have put a couple of things together and we have Derrick Rose backing up Kyrie next year, you know. But it didn't happen, so he goes to New York. Now, before I get into what that means for New York, I just kind of want to go over Derrick Rose's career with the Chicago Bulls and really try to put this into perspective of what Derrick Rose was to the league, how the league and the college system bullshitted players like Derrick Rose. And Stephen A. Smith, he kind of alludes to what I'm about to go into, so I'm going to play a clip this morning.
Sitting up there and literally looking into the faces of the media and talking about how you worried about your next contract or whether or not you're going to be able to walk straight when your kid graduates from high school and all of this other stuff. You can't do that in the midst of a $90+ million contract. Getting paid $20 million a year, getting scheduled to get paid $21.3 million.
Now, I'm going to start right there. The part when he talks about not being able to graduate from high school, now this is well documented, but rarely spoken on. Derrick Rose is illiterate. He can't read. He's a functional, I don't want to say functional retard, but he's literate on a very small functional level. And he's not alone, but he's one of the players within the last 10 years that really got put out there. I remember when he first was speaking, and he was when he was at Memphis, and he couldn't really talk. He couldn't speak, you know. And it wasn't the fact that he was shy or camera struck or anything like that. He just can't articulate himself, and it was kind of sad because here I'm looking at this great talent, and it reminds me of back in the day when they were having players and they would say stupid shit like basketball has been very, very good to me and shit like that, you know. It was kind of along those lines of how he was speaking, and I'm like, wow, like this can't be really going on. Like, I just couldn't believe that this was happening. Sure enough, it was happening. So once I heard that, I started to investigate a little more. And I went back on his high school records and his transcripts, you know, on his high school grades and everything from his transcripts. And I'm like, this guy shouldn't have never even graduated high school. Now, me personally, I don't think that equates intelligence. Let me just get that right out there. You know, you have standardized education. A lot of shit is culturally biased. So I get it, except for the exception of math, and even to a degree, math could be culturally biased because depending on what school district you go to and what economic class that school district is in, then you're going to be taught a different level of math. at a particular stage. So by the time you graduate high school, you still may be doing basic shit. And when you get to SAT time and stuff, you just have not seen some of these equations. You don't know what to do on the math section. But when it comes to English and art and things of that nature, well, then we know it's culturally biased because you're just not going to be exposed to certain things when you go to inner city schools. Even though he didn't go to a basketball, he went to a prep, but still, he just wasn't equipped. And they swept it under the rug. And here's what I'm saying. Back in high school in 06, Derrick Rose, he was a phenom. He was one of those players that athletically, I mean, you just couldn't match him. You know, kind of like when you look at Westbrook now, that was Derrick Rose. They're pretty much in the same grade and category, generational wise. But his explosiveness was a little bit more than Westbrook. Westbrook has a little more height, very little more height, but Rose was a little more broader, and his explosiveness was just boom. It was just like he shot out of a cannon. It was crazy. And in high school, it showed that. When he went to Memphis, he had D's on his report card. He had D's. So what Memphis decided to do was they got his grades changed from D's to C's. Now this became news immediately after Derrick Rose left for the NBA after one season. But they already knew this shit, prior to that. So here we supposedly have this system set up. Excuse me. We supposedly had a system set up that, you have to have a certain grade point average to go to this particular college. And, these are the rules, and, we're gung-ho about this, but we clearly see them circumventing that process, depending on the player. Now, for me, I think it should be a whole nother category when it comes to people going to college. And I'm going to say that it's like this. If you're going to college for a particular major, like say you're great at math or whatever, right? And you want to be an engineer. So you go to college for that. And that's what you do. Okay? There should be a situation where you can go to college for sports. Like, straight up. Like, that's what you're there for. You're there to play basketball. You're there to do what you want to do with your career. And it may be, business. It may be fucking philosophy or whatever the case. But you're there because you're a basketball player. So there should be a degree for that. There should be a degree for, basketball, football, baseball. There should be a degree. And in that degree, these people also learn, like coaching 101, maybe sports medicine. These things should be put in that. So when you have players like this, who they're here to play a sport. Okay, now let's get this straight. Where when you go into college, right, you're signing a contract. There's not a guaranteed full ride for 4 years, like straight off top. Each year, they renegotiate your contract. They re-up your contract, rather. So if you can be a scholarship player 1 year, you don't produce, right? You don't produce. So the next year, when it comes time to re-up, you may not be offered a full ride anymore. And the shit works like that. People don't know that. So you got a lot of times, you got people bitching and moaning about these collegiate athletes that, they go to school free and they shouldn't get paid. That's bullshit. Because they generate billions of dollars. They get nothing from it. And they're on a year-by-year contract with the college. This is how it works. When you understand that, that's a fucking job. That's not, I'm just here going to school and I'm playing some ball on the side. No. You have to produce. You be a nigga out there not producing, you will find yourself on a partial or some shit, and then you figuring the rest out to try to, go to school. And that happens all the time. No one's talking about it. And they want to make this system where they don't want to let these kids come from high school, where clearly Derrick Rose is an example of a guy who should have came from high school. Now, here's what's unfair about what happened to Derrick Rose in Chicago. Okay? I don't think people was really taking into effect how Thibodeau played Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose was ran into the ground. Okay, Thibodeau practice style, it's daunting on players. He demands so much of you from the defensive end also. Plus, Derrick Rose is the focal point offensively. So here we got a guy who, he's broad, he's muscular, he's 6'3". His game is predicated on going to the basket, taking punishment. Okay? Plus, he's planning a system that's going to make him be a factor on defense, where he's going to have to expend a lot of energy on defense too. It's not a situation like in Golden State where Curry should say, fuck that. Most of my energy is going to go on offense, and defense, we'll cover it up. We're going to let you off the hook on that. Derrick Rose had to be a two-way player because that's what teams demanded. That's what he demanded. So it's only a matter of time with that style of play, right? With the amount of minutes he's playing, with the amount of practice that was demanded on him, before he breaks down. It was only a matter of time. And then using these players like that, you got a coach like Tibbs, he's going to Minnesota. Now, I like what he can bring to them as far as from a discipline standpoint. I think they can come with great defensive schemes, and they have athletes on athletes, man. When you got Towns, and then you got Wiggins, and then you got Levine, man. And I said this before, and I'm saying it again, Timberwolves gonna be in the top 5 in the West next year. I'm gonna keep saying that till you motherfuckers see it. It's just gonna happen. Alright? So, go back to Derrick Rose. So yeah, it was only a matter of time before it broke down. Before he broke down. And when you go back to that play, in the playoffs, Derrick Rose goes down. He shouldn't even been in the game. They were up. It was like minutes left, not like maybe 2 minutes, maybe under 2 minutes left. They're up by like 13, 15 points. He had no business being in the game at that point. He had no business being in the game. It was not imbalanced. The game was decided. But because of Tibbs' philosophy, he kept him out there, one play too many. And then we see the free fall of Derrick Rose. And there's a lot of people out there who are Derrick Rose fans, who was Derrick Rose fans, who was on that train, that have completely alienated him, and it's fucked up. And Chicago Bulls organization is number one. Now, I understand they have been kind of patient with, him over this process, only because of the invested money they had in him. They had no choice but to be patient. Adidas had no choice but to make them be impatient also. We're talking billions of dollars now. Okay, we're talking hundreds of millions with Derrick Rose by himself. Now, if I include, the revenue that he's going to bring in to the Bulls, now we're talking billions. But if we just talk about his contract with the Bulls and his contract with Adidas, hundreds of millions of dollars. Okay, that's what we're talking about with Derrick Rose. So their patience wasn't really, it was selfish. It wasn't selfless, it was selfish. It was only because it was in their best interest to be patient with Derrick Rose. Okay, so that's the only reason why they had any type of patience with him. Other than that, it would have been like, fuck you, get out of here. Immediately. I don't think they didn't have talks beforehand. They could have traded him before, but they still had hope. And they had too much money invested in at that time to say, if we get rid of Derrick Rose and he come back Derrick Rose, shit, it's crazy. Now we just giving away, so they couldn't do it. So it's a lot of money matters that goes involved in Derrick Rose and mental. Now here's the mental part, and we'll go back to the high school days when you got a guy who they pretty much falsified his records. People took his SATs for him. This is not new. It's happened. It happens. It's going to continue to happen. But this is stuff that was known as soon as he left Memphis. All this stuff came out. Now when all this stuff comes out, what do you do after that? Do you change the system? No, you don't. They didn't change it. They didn't try to help any other player that will come after him. They're going to have to go the same route. They didn't try to change it. What they're trying to do is continue to get more money from these kids and make money off their backs. But they don't really give a fuck about these kids. They just don't. I don't care what any commentator tell you. I don't care about none of that shit. If these dudes can earn a living coming out of high school, then it's their right to earn a living coming out of high school. Period. We should not limit their potential, because earning potential in years factor into everything. For instance, had LeBron had to go to school, right? His peak years would have came a lot sooner in his contract. So the way his contract is structured now, the way he's playing out his career now, based off a contract per contract structure, he would be 33 now trying to get this other max deal instead of 30 going on 31. Whereas at 33, they're not finna try to give him that money. But at 31, he's probably more apt to get it. See, you got to understand what these numbers is all about. They're trying to limit the amount of money and power that these players have, which limits their earning potential, which is fucking illegal. You're not supposed to be limiting a man's earning potential. Not in this system. Now you motherfuckers love capitalism and all that. Well, learn how the system works. And stop making it okay when black people and black athletes get the short end of the system and they speak on it. Stop doing that. Stop saying it's okay for that to happen to them, because it's not. And Derrick Rose is a prime example of why the system needs to get changed back. Because if he was a few years younger or a couple of years younger, the Bulls probably would have been a little bit more patient. Probably. Because the contract would have been structured a little differently. Derrick Rose, the youngest player to win MVP. That's when you get the Derrick Rose rule, where if in your first couple of seasons you're all NBA, first team, or you get MVP, then you automatically get boosted out of the rookie scale. We saw Anthony Davis fall short of that this year. It cost him $25 million because he didn't make NBA first, second, or third team. He almost did. He didn't do it. See, these are incentive-based contracts. So performance-based, rather, and they have incentives attached to it based off the performance. So this is what we see going on when you hear about, okay, he makes $200 million. Well, it all depends on what his performance is, and then the incentives will kick in. And that's what happens. When they don't perform a certain level, they don't get those incentives, and then that number changes. Now, the media is not going to report to you, well, it's not 200 million, it's 189 million. And they ain't going to keep going down every time they don't perform, and that incentive don't kick in. They're not going to give you the fucking update on it. All you're going to know is, oh, here's this young black kid with $200 million. Fuck tax. We ain't even telling you that 60% is going out in tax or whatever. We ain't telling you none of that shit. You know, they're not going to do that. They're going to make it look like these black kids is making way too much money at a young age. So then we have white media reporting that shit, and then you have the public, perception of it, and that's what they're going to do. And then they're going to be able to fuck you in your next contract. And that's what we're seeing going on now in the league. Now, we have an influx of money coming in because of TV contracts, so you're going to see things that's going to look balloon. right? So you're going to say, okay, well, players are being overpaid because they have money. Listen, what you got to understand is the teams are obligated to spend that much money, okay, per collective bargaining agreement. Now, if they don't spend that money, it's a penalty. So they actually save money and make money by overpaying because they're allowed to do that per collective bargaining agreement. Okay, so don't make it seem like poor franchises, they're just spending way too much. Don't make it. It's not really like that. Because if they don't spend the money, then there's a penalty and it's going to cost them more money. It's still in the best interest of the organization. It's still in their best interest. So understand that, because in these next months, once free agents start kicking, this is the shit that's going to start coming out. You're going to start hearing, oh, they paid too much. Oh, I can't believe it. TV contracts fucking up the league. You know, what they're trying to do is to set you up for the next collective bargaining agreement to take more away from the players. Okay, that's what it's pretty much set up for. Now, here we have Derrick Rose, like I said, youngest MVP ever. Ride high, gets like a $200 million contract from Adidas. Everything is going great. Tibbs just fucking ran him into the dirt. I mean, he literally ran him out of a real fulfilling career. Just a couple of days off. Just break him out of the game when we're up 15 with 2 minutes left. These little things, man, helps the body heal, helps prolong a career. But he didn't give a fuck, and that's the knock I have on him. And I'm telling you, the players out there in Minnesota, the GM, whoever is involved in that organization, they better have the rings on, Tibbs, because you don't want to see Wiggins fuck around with have 2 bad knees in the next 2 years. And Zach LaVine all fucked up, or Karl Towns all fucked up. You want these players to have long, fruitful careers, man. That's what you want. Tibbs will run them into the ground. He has a great defensive scheme. His background is from defense. Great. But all that extra shit that he got them doing, too much, man. Pull that shit back. Pull it back. Now, I know there are a lot of people say, well, you know, Pat Riley, he's known for being a fitness fanatic. Fitness fanatic, meaning you have to be in tip-top shape to come in camp. When you come in camp, you have to have a certain body weight and things like that, fat, BMI and things like that. You know, he wants a certain percentage of body fat on you. You know, because the particular style of play he likes to run, you have to be in shape. That's not the same as I'm finna run you into the fucking ground. Okay, now, when you talk about Shaquille O'Neal going into that situation, well, Shaquille O'Neal was already far gone before he left the Lakers, as far as, weight, foot, and joint issue. By the time he got to Miami, he was really a shell of himself, and that's why, Dwayne Wade had to do what he had to do. But there's no secret. I mean, we can even see it through D-Wade, look at his knees. He has no cartilage, I think, in both knees now. Okay? Now, look at the difference between Wade and LeBron. They come in the league at the same time, but Wade had to go to college. So he got years on him, which equals knowledge. See what I'm saying? He went to Miami. Very stringent when it comes to them and their workout regimens. Very stringent. So they will run you into the ground, and you have to be leery. And you have to understand that. You have to understand what they do to these players. Now, I just feel bad. I feel bad because while Derrick Rose was going through this, mentally he wasn't strong enough, because when you have a guy who's getting certain things in high school, getting certain treatments, mentally it does something to you. Now, they tried to sell you a story of Derrick Rose being mentally tough because of where he came from in Chicago, where he grew up at. That's mentally tough on one side, but when basketball or anything you're good at becomes your safe haven, your safety net, well, that's where he got most of his protection from. That's where he feel comfortable at. Now, when he gets to the league and gets injured, now that stuff is being taken away. Now, the one thing that he had that comforted him, that made him feel secure, now that's the place where he's being ridiculed the most at now. Derrick Rose was not mentally capable of taking on injuries. A lot of players aren't. They just can't do it. You know, and this is Derrick Rose, one of them people that without basketball, what else am I going to be doing at this point? And he was faced with that. Now, you know, he's grown and matured as an adult now, so I'm hoping that, you know, he's found other avenues, and I'm pretty sure he has. But during this process of him being injured, this has been an ongoing situation. I mean, he had rape allegations coming out, he had drug charges coming out, he had connection with gangs coming out. This is all during the time when he got injured, which all shows you something that is lacking in a person's mental, in their mindset. And Derrick Rose was a victim of that. You know, I know it's hard when you say victim and you think about the money he makes, but we're not talking about that. We're just talking about from a psychological standpoint and what was going on with him as a player mentally. So in that, you know, so that's where that term comes from when I use it in that regards. It's just sad, man. It's sad the way they did everything and the way they transitioned everybody. Butler started progressing, so they hopped on him. You know, his offensive game came. He's already an excellent defensive player, and they just immediately shifted everything to Butler because they didn't believe in Derrick Rose. That destroys a person inside, especially when this is all you got. This is why when LeBron left Cleveland, we should not have been critical or overcritical of what he did. Because this is the nature of the business. When this shit goes on, it's like, cool, you know, it's all good. Players can be traded. They're nothing. They're like fucking cards. And you can trade them here. I can give you this and a pack of bubble gum, and I'll take that. And it's okay. But the minute a player tries to empower himself and say, okay, you know what? I'm going to make a decision based off what's best for me. It's a problem. That's that slave and master mentality that is apparent in our culture and society right now. And it always has been, because that's the basis of it. And Derrick Rose he's no different from anybody else. So now he's going to New York, and people are acting like he wasn't who he was before. And this is like maybe 5 years ago. It's not that long ago. In between this, you had Stephen Curry with fucking mashed potato ankles. Now he's the greatest shit ever, and Derrick Rose is nothing. In between that, you had Kevin Durant. You know, so the league is like recycling these motherfuckers around LeBron, trying to figure some shit out, and they're throwing them away. You know, like look at Kevin Durant. He could do no wrong. Now the media is so quick to jump on him, and he's snapping back at them. That tells you something changed in the arrangement. And we're going to see the same thing with Curry. The league is like, okay, we're going to take this Linus blanket off of you, and now you're going to just go back to playing, and maybe we'll find another person, you know, and that's what they're doing. That's what they're going to do to him. We're going to see little shit, you know, come out about him more. That's the nature of the business. And I always try to explain that to people when I see them going and hyping up and going after this one guy. They got to understand that they put that person there for you to do that. I said it before in my other videos. LeBron is the standard. Everything else is the variable that you just try to match it to the standard and see what it can produce. That's what we see with LeBron and the rest of these players in the league is LeBron and everyone else. And I'm suspecting that maybe this class with Ben Simmons, maybe we get the next LeBron in this class. So as LeBron starts to, you know, go down into the end of his career, we get one of these guys boosted up. It got to be coming up. It either got to be in this draft or the next couple of drafts. So we have to see that. it's definitely nobody that's in the league already. Like, we're not going to see Paul George become what LeBron James is. So it's just not going to happen. He's going to be nice or whatever, but it's not. Kevin Durant isn't going to take over that. We're not going to see that. It's going to be a player that has not hit the league yet. So it's going to be Simmons, one of these type of guys. And I think it's Simmons because LeBron is smart. He already signed him. So he's not stupid. He's not stupid. And the league knows that, you know. But as far as with Derrick Rose, man, so now he's going to the Knicks. Man, I'm gonna say I think Derrick Rose. Here's what I think he's gonna do next season. I think he'll play 60+ games, and he'll average 20 points, 6 assists. That's what I'm going. 20 and 6, his average next year. Some people say the Knicks could be in the Eastern Conference Finals. Look at the makeup. You have Rose, you have Melo, and you have Porzingis. That's a good 3 right there. If they go pick up with Dwight Howard, you know, who's another player in the league that fucking threw away. You know, another young cat they just threw away. Now we're talking. Now we got somebody who can go against the Cavs, and that's not no walk-through thing. If LeBron stay in Cleveland, that's gonna be tough. But I already have a theory about New York anyway. They only gotta sell hope for New York. They don't gotta really produce. They only gotta do is sell hope, which is what they will do. So, no, you can't get up right now. Okay. No, you have to sit down. Huh? So that's what they can look real nice if they can get that. Now if they can throw in a Kevin Durant with Howard, then that's even more. You know, now we're talking championship. But other than that, you know, if they're going to be a playoff team, they're still a good team. I think Derrick Rose will press the reset button. The Bulls obviously have, and it's just a sad thing to see him go like that. It almost feels like he's retiring or something, the way like he's been put to death or something. Like he's going to go to New York where all careers go to die. I think I heard somebody say that, and it's kind of true. I remember Steve Francis went there, Penny Hardaway went there, T-Mac went there, all after injuries, and they go there to fucking die. Stephon went back and he went there to die. So there may be some truth to that. Okay, you're gonna have to be quiet if you don't sit here. Okay, or you gotta get down. Okay, then you have to be quiet. So the way the league is structured, they pretty much they do things repetitively. So if we know it's a history of players getting injured, then they go to New York and they get career in, like Barry Davis. That actually might be what's going on right now. We might actually just see the league put Derrick Rose to rest. Hopefully it's not. Usually when players go to New York, that first season is really good. Because they kind of really get the New York fan base behind that guy. Like, man, he's back from injury. And so next year, it'll be your best bet to bet on Derrick Rose and bet on New York. Because after that, they're fucked. Yeah, Derrick Rose career probably going to be nothing after this next season and first season in New York. So that's more than likely what's going to happen. This league they don't vary from the player, they don't deviate from the player rather much. So that's pretty much what you probably going to see. So New York, Derrick Rose, like I said, 20 points, 6 assists. Probably most improved player next year, and they'll be pretty good. As far as Tibbs in Minnesota, like I said, you know, if I'm a GM owner of that team, I would tell Tibbs, man, do not fuck up this young talent we got. We want you to cultivate them, nurture them, but do not run them into the fucking ground like you did Derrick Rose. he should be ashamed of himself. He knew what he did. He was sitting there talking that bullshit after the play when he got hurt. And I should have had the clip ready, but I don't. But that's what he was doing. He knew it was his fault. Everybody in Chicago knew. The ownership knew. Everybody knew that Derrick Rose should have been in the play. He shouldn't have been in the game at that point. The game was fucking over. Why is your star player in the game? But that's what Tibbs done, and he deserved to be. Some shit happened to him. Like his career should get fucked up too, which it kind of has. Like it hasn't really been much, but he's still working. So whatever that whatever that means, but it's kind of fucked up, and no one's really blaming Tibbs, and they should, because it's his fucking fault. He blamed Derrick Rose to the ground. I told you you gotta be quiet, you know. Ask for the NCAA and their rules. Fuck the rules. Stop trying to make these kids stay in school. Okay, that's it. Stop trying to make these kids stay in school. And no, you're gonna have to sit there. So stop trying to make them stay in school so you can earn more money from them and exploiting them like that. Stop doing that. If these dudes is ready to come from high school, let them come from high school. Let them do that. That's pretty much it on that topic. I just wanted to touch on it real quick. Kind of went a little longer than I expected, but that's the nature of the beast. Alright? Peace.